my whole life in order. Everything's being remodeled. I'll talk about it later. The whole
Yeah,
happening.
I've welcome everybody to another
Hi.
Tuesday, wherever you are in the world, which is zero right now. So it's just us. That's perfect because we don't got much to talk about.
Woo!
Hello, empty screen. Then again, they could be watching this on the replay where they
That's
usually
right.
come.
You want to say the I love you person in the future? I love you.
Absolutely. We actually do get a few replays on here. So
Yeah,
hello,
we do.
leave a comment down below and how much you like the sandwich and our magnificent and rando discussions. How have you been, Snow, since the last the last Tuesday? How's the world treated you since Tuesday?
Yeah, I missed one Tuesday because I came in
Yeah,
and I was like, "Yay, I'm ready to go," and then nobody else was around. I was like, "No, I'm not ready to go," and so we didn't show up. But that's because Black Knight is on vacation, and so we
yeah.
have been waiting for him to come back so that we could do a special thing. But he's still on vacation, so we're like, we're doing it live, and so yeah, so I missed last week, but then this week, all the whole world is being remodeled, so I have my
Mm-hmm.
entire house. And we're making all the plans for doing finishing out the Wonder Bunker, which has been a journey. We started off
Yeah.
by camping out in it, actually without any, totally off the grid, no power, no water, nothing we had in here, and we stayed that way for about 6 months, and then we finally got power and water, and now what we're doing is finishing out the interior where it will have all of the little insulation and stuff, and I'm hopeful that I will be able to use it as a studio because, and you and I can talk about this because I don't know how you
Mm-hmm.
have your studio made, but so this place is only 16 by 17 in the first place. Well, I'm going to be using so like certain things like closed cell foam, and then I'm going to be putting a metal interior, but I'm thinking about doing flocking or something on it to make it less noisy. But
Yeah.
but that at least will maybe keep out the noises of farm animals, which constantly dogs me when I am doing any kind of recording, because as you know, I live on a farm. So we have that, and I have gravel people coming out, and I have a fencing dudes that are working on fencing, but everybody's not here right now. So you caught me at just the right time because I am not having to deal with heavy machinery. So yay. Welcome to
There
my
we go.
world.
There we go. Yes. It's part of the dynamics of life, and that's one thing that
Eh,
every author has to deal with. Um, two 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 things. One thing both authors and superheroes have in common: no one pays them up front. Well,
no,
most authors. Most
that is
authors.
true.
Um, so you really do got to work around the dynamics of life for writing. I know I'm facing that right now. I
Oh,
given myself a little bit of a 2 week a 2 week buffer period to get a lot of editing done with the previous series I've
mhm.
released. And I'm going to re release that, and make it nice and polished and for people to
Ooh, awesome.
enjoy. And it was the first series I released. So it was released like the better half of a year ago, maybe even over a year ago now. And that's going to be re released soon in roughly 2 weeks, a little under now.
Oh, really?
Well, I work on like the next series, which is it's the same series but season two. The next installment. Joining us in the chat actually right now, we got Wrangler.
Ah, Wrangler. How are you doing, sweet potato?
A whole lot of Ola, per usual. Another great writer down there that has to deal with the dynamics of life. And in the
Yeah.
midst of that, with all that writing I got to get done, a lot of editing, there
Mm-hmm.
is so much juggling
Oh, yeah.
involved in the midst of all
Mm-hmm.
of it. And it's interesting because sometimes the editing becomes like a part of the juggle or a little bit of a
Yeah.
crutch to lean on. It's like, well, I know that the sentence ultimately is not that well written, very rough around the edges, and got about 8 typos, but I'm gonna fix
Yeah.
that later down the
Yeah.
road. Yeah, yeah. So it's an experience going like this far into the writing process. About I suppose I'm on my fourth year of being a writer now, and
Yes, you are.
maybe my third year of continuously releasing. So I've got quite the bank of works that need to be edited. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's the thing. You went through this huge creative flowering period, and I know that Wrangler knows about this, where you write, 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 write. It's all you do. But then you have to go back and you have to do all of this other stuff, the editing, the marketing, everything.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's really can be so overwhelming because the creative that creative joy that you have just that when you write the final words of a scene, hey, this is it. I've finished this element of my creative work, whether it's a book, a chapter, whatever. There's this huge just upwelling of joy, and then you realize, what do I do with it? What I actually do? And then you read it through again because if you're like me, I love. Okay, I don't know about y'all. I love editing. I love reading my own work. It sounds terrible. I was always taught you shouldn't brag. You shouldn't brag. But I love my characters. I love the world I built. So I can read it like 100 times. It doesn't bother me. What does bother me are the typos and the the repeat words that I sometimes put in there, which are so irritating when I find them later. And then I say that, well, that was alliteration. That was actually, evocative, or I did the repeats to make it, more literally uh weighty. But that's a lie. I just forgot and I put those
Yeah,
extra.
yeah.
So now if you follow, I've said this before, if you follow these what we used to call the Southern Baptist method, actually based on what the King James Bible does, where there's a triplet. And that actually shows up in a lot of ancient writing where there's a triplet that increases a certain amount of tension in a passage. I'm willing to help you. I'm wanting to help you. I'm wishing to help
Yeah.
you. They say that over and over again. And it actually is only accurately conveyed by the human voice or by people who understand that method. AI picks it up and it goes, you're repeating, and it doesn't want you to use it. But when this is what's been used, and of course, I was raised, I'm the wife of a Baptist preacher. I've lived all my life in churches. I am used to that cadence. And so I will use it. And if somebody else is editing, they'll go, well, you repeated here. I'm like, it's supposed to be repeated there. But then there's places where I use it like 3 times, like every single time. She literally did this. She literally did. And I realized there's like literally like 5 times on this page. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why did I do this? So the editing part of writing, you have to love what you're reading, or it can become really tough. And you can honestly, you can love your own work, and it's still that 50th time that you're going over that page, you're like, I'm really sick of this person. I just really want them to move on to the next scene. And so those things that we do when we're working on that portion of our writing, it's not just the authorship, it is the that polishing and marketing of it and keeping it maintained, so it's out there in the public eye and it can generate sales, but not just sales, but generate
Hmm.
lifelong relationships from author to reader, and how that affects us afterwards. In fact, I was thinking about this today, and I know that I've Tennessee, we have a hard time with a lot of the stuff that George R. R. Martin has done, not because he's not a great writer, but because he didn't has not yet finished his series.
Uh-huh.
And it will probably be considered that it is an unfinished series, or that it's finished in its own right, because he may just never be able to finish this out. And he posted today on X about his the loss of a friend and how much it had affected him, where he hadn't even posted a blog post in a month, and
Hmm.
that what he's writing now may be less and less. He's already 77, and he's hitting this place in his life where suddenly he's just not doing what he did before. And you can get that way as an author, where suddenly that ability to, like you're talking about, life intervening, where suddenly you're not able to be the writer that you were, or something happens and you cannot get to your own work because there's you
Hmm.
know poverty, or damage has been done somewhere and you have to fix things, and it affects all of us. And I felt so bad for him. And so I try to be, have some grace about it, because I understand he was caught in an unusual place where they actually sort of finished the show for him on TV, and now he's sort of stuck in a place where that ending is already out there in his canon. And it's like, I actually felt really sorry for him. Not sorry for like, oh, I'm better off. Sorry, like it could be me. You can have something happen where suddenly you're put in a place where you can't finish the work you set out to do, or not at that time. How do we deal with that as authors? How do you deal with the uncertainty of going, oh, I might not be able to do this? I mean, might not be able to finish that arc. How do you deal with it, James? Because actually, that's one of the hugest things for me right now as an author,
Yeah.
is that I want to get this done. It's so overwhelming to me that I actually think about it. The first thing I wake up is, I've got to get this series done. Last thing I think of when I go to sleep is, I've got to get this series done. I've got to get these books out, and just that time that it takes to get edited, to get it formatted, for me to do the illustrations, which I'm still haven't done yet because I haven't got my
Hmm.
final edit in, and I'm waiting for that before I illustrate the scenes. And I'm like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that
Right.
uncertainty about being a human with an unfinished work inside of you? How do you deal with that?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, I know the threats or the worry. I have that a few times myself.
Oh, really?
Oh, I mean, of course, I think we all do because you think about life. Sure, you may have age, you may have ill health, but the healthiest of people die every day.
Hmm.
Of all ages. So in the back of my mind, I think like what is my work gonna mean? Half finished, half cocked, even, just out there in the ether. And I know a few writers have actually experienced this. I forgot their name, at least not their first name. I believe their last name was Jordan. I believe they're the author of the Wheel of Time series. I
Yes.
believe they passed away, and then they one aspect that you mentioned, which I think is a bit of a security to this, and I think really the only one we can really give, at least I can think of off the top of my head here, is to meet another author who can carry that torch for you and
Hmm.
complete the series. Because I believe that's what happened. It was
Brandon Sanderson.
Brian Sanderson, finished the Wheel of Time series there. And I think if we really want to get that security or that insurance, the best we can do is commune with our fellow authors.
Hmm.
And to do that, we have to do something that's become actually a bit more difficult to the modern era of what I've seen of what I guess we could call the Substack crowd, Substack scene.
Hmm.
There's so much authors are so busy writing, they have such a difficult time consuming. And when they do consume
Hmm.
in the modern era, it's not like the past where we have our fellow author in front of us and their works. Now we have the internet where we have these mass marketed materials from around the world that are being consumed, and we have a community of authors who don't know what each other's writing is like.
Yeah.
They know the writing of their favorite, their shared authors, their shared
Yeah. The one.
video games that they all like, the movies they all watch, the music they consume, everything in between, but they don't even know each other's works. It's sort of removing this layer of possible insurance to keep your work going, because it's one thing to say, the fan will miss my work and may be able to lore wise come to a plausible conclusions of where it is, but it takes a fellow author to actually weave that for you, because a, a book is a tapestry and an experience. And when that experience is left half done, it's a bitter taste.
Yeah.
And there's, we're not taking the time to ensure each other's works. So some author will release a book, and that'll be like the only time they themselves get read by their fellow author, not their short stories or their
Hmm.
releases or the
Yeah.
things on digital, but it's those events in between. And besides that, they go silent to each other's works. So I
Yeah.
think we need to commune as authors, not just like come together, but really commune,
Hmm.
conversate, read each other's works, critique each other's works, write in similar universes. There's a lot there, but I think that insurance is found in the community of authors that have a hard time communing.
Well, and also here's the thing: it's not just the reading. For us to become invested in each other's work, and this is where the sweet spot is. We can actually be there for each other's friends, to arc read, to do these other things, and that's an amazing thing. But it's the fan, the actual person who is actually invested in that world, that finishes frequently the works that were undone. A classic case of this is Paula Polybotzian Dances. Polybotzian Dances was written by Borodin, and it is an opera that was being done, a Russian opera. And Polybotzian Dances was being written by this young man named Borodin. He had died during the course of writing this. And I'm going to make sure that I've got this right. And I'm going to put it up on Wiki to make sure. I believe it's Rimsky-Korsakov that finished it, but it may have been Tchaikovsky. So I'm making sure that I have my Russian dudes all figured out. But he died during the writing of his thing, and it was so impressed his friend that his friend actually came in and wrote the whole opera itself is wonderful, but it's the other composers section that actually is remembered because he was a far more famous composer. But he actually put his own he put his own name aside, and only a few people knew that he actually finished it for him. And I'm going to make sure I look that up because I'm going to put it. Rodin is the actual original author of that opera, but that's what that friendship did, and not just about being his friend, but also about the fact that he was actually his fan as well, to create this piece and to finish it and put his friend's name right at the top, as this is Borodin's work, as the Polybotzian Dances. And so that was an act of love that's born out of admiration, and that can only come from within. We have friends that we love that we're like, it's like being friends with a person that loves trains. If you ever know anybody who really, 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 really loves trains, and they love them so much, and they're like, when a train goes by, they tell you everything about that train,
yeah.
and about and where it came from and where it's going and the type of what tracks that it's on. And you're thinking, that's great. I love listening to this guy talk about trains. And then there's a friend that you have that you love trains, and they go, dude, yeah, I know, I saw it. And then it came out of a tunnel 3 weeks ago, and I saw that, and I was so stoked. And they get as excited as their friend does. Now, that's the person that completes the sentence. That's what we need for each other. And that can only come from a shared love of the subject matter, not just of the friend, but of the subject matter as well.
Yeah.
And of the
Yeah.
and even the writing style, though. For instance, we have writing styles that are different. Yes, people who have finished the Wheel of Time series, Brandon Sanderson did a fabulous job. He was actually chosen by the author's widow. She came in and looked at their work and said, I think you're the closest match. And of course, and she shared the notes and everything that she had. And then Brandon came in and did it. But people still say, I can tell where the other author picks up. I can tell where it went. And sometimes this can be mitigated by having a collaboration previous to the other author actually passing or going away. If you know that something's down the pike from you, you can actually bring in other authors to collaborate with you, to have their name on the byline. I believe that's what happened with some of Anna McCaffrey's work, that she actually had guest authors coming. I think it was Mercedes Lackey that came in and wrote some of the stories with her, and then it switched over to Mercedes Lackey after Anna McCaffrey passed for the not Dragon Age, dang it, she Dragon Riders of Pern. And so they actually shared that byline before she passed. So when people bought the next book, oh, I've already read something, and it sort of segues gracefully into the other writer's writing style. And we see that a lot with some of the older writers that are out there that have, know that they've got a long running series or a collection of books that they've written, and they bring in an understudy, basically a person that works with them. They collaborate, and that showcases that other person's writing style. So it doesn't feel as fast, as strange to be reading another writing style. Um, and also that collaboration happens with C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, that they don't write together. They have a very different writing style, but because they commune so often at Oxford, where they were writing and working together, that you can feel that presence flowing back and forth, even though we never see each other's names. We don't see Tolkien's name on C.S. Lewis's work or vice versa, but you can feel the presence of those friends, those great minds, the conversations that took place behind it. And so I know that probably the only person that could have done Tolkien the way that they did actually was Tolkien's son. I believe it was Christopher, I believe is his name. And he is actually the person who puts together and assembles the Silmarillion for us and melds it into the story. So in his own right, he is an author. He creates this body of work for his father because he knew his father so intimately and had read his work so often. He's able to adopt that voice where it's seamless from Tolkien to Tolkien. Which one is it? We don't even really know. We know that it's almost all Tolkien's work, but the editing that it takes to put it together, to make it flow, to make it become a story, was Christopher Tolkien's work, his son. And so those collaborations that you're talking about, where we have authors and the people who are coming in behind them to commune first, are the difference between a story that's just, oh, here's a biography or here's a collection of notes, to becoming a part of the work itself.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it also helps word of mouth as well, because another aspect you mentioned is the marketing, and that's one that a lot of exterior, the romantic aspects of becoming a writer. Um, you do have to deal with a lot of managerial stuff. Most writers are their own managers. You got to sell yourself. You got to sell your own works. You got to become a salesperson to a degree. And there's a lot more platforms than ever to keep you going out there. But at the same time, I'm seeing a weariness about it, where a lot of these platforms are more so making money off of authors than authors are using them to boost their careers. Have you noticed this?
Yes. It's one of those things where we find each other basically through those platforms, and at the same time, it becomes a closed loop. The only people we're reaching are authors. The only people we're finding are authors, and that sort of, it makes it to where it's hard, because we're all passing the same $10 to each other the whole time. I buy this one. Hey, he bought it from me last week. Hey, great. We're going to share, and it does help each other. Let us never take that down to a place where, oh, it doesn't mean anything. The community of authors, remember that when we had the great literary clubs, where all of the writers of the early 20th century would get together and have feasts, and or sit around and drink coffee and be snarky with each other. We fantasize about stuff like that, about Virginia Woolf having a meeting with F. Scott Fitzgerald or somebody, and they sat around and drank coffee and talked trash about somebody else that was there. Those little enclaves of authors mean the world, because it helps shape the culture in which you're in. That actually has happened with the Iron Age movement to a certain extent, that especially as it was just getting started, was really starting to reach that peak, that you had a lot of people that came together that wouldn't have ever found each other. And they supported each other and helped each other get published, to help each other do these things. That moment can't ever be erased. There's this sudden flowering of indie, especially right before the sudden release of AI groups, that you have this, where you have just human writers putting out these works, and they're influencing each other so much that now it's affecting that next iteration of the indie movement, which is the humanocentric indie movement. And that now we're also bouncing off each other. So I don't want to ever say that that's not what we're after, because we are. We want that for each other and for ourselves. But we also need to be able to reach the fans. We need to be able to reach our readers. And I actually prefer, it's wonderful to have fans. Fans are people that love what you do. But readers, that's a relationship. When you have an author and they have a reader, this is like, it's like giving a person a gift, and you go, I want to show you something, and they go, oh, I love it, and that's wonderful. Or a person that just goes, it's just a product, or that's nice, and they put it in the corner. A fan actually loves it. Your reader becomes a fan. That's amazing. But they're readers. It's a relationship, and we need those readers too. And you're right about this. Authors don't necessarily have time to read as much. They're so busy doing all this work. And if all we see are each other in our interactions, then we can't reach our readers. And those readers, that's the hidden gold of how do I market myself.
Very much so. A question I've been asking lately, because even though I'd release one short story a week
Yeah.
for months at a time. I'll lose a subscriber, gain a subscriber, lose a subscriber, gain a subscriber, and hover around the exact same number with little actual sort of outreach from the community. That's the frustrating aspect I'm finding. And I think it may simply be that my works aren't necessarily made for Substack themselves, because I mentioned it before that I've been posting on Royal Road, but I'm thinking of moving it most of my works over there more permanently, because they sort of reward the continuous output as it is. So, that kind of goes into that managerial aspect where you have to find the niche online that'll actually become a boon instead of sort of pull away from you. Because another aspect of Substack that a lot of us talk about is how it's sort of with its new notes feature, or not too new now, but its notes feature, it sort of turned it into a Facebook-esque website for authors. So you get a lot of people following each other more so for their comments than their actual literature. But with that said, we have had Wrangler here making some posts for a little while. He said, unfinished work like that is a tragedy. Thank God he had a competent friend to push it over the finish line.
And actually, I got some of it. Actually, it's Alexander Broden.
Well, yes, breaking up there.
All Bossian dances from the Prince Igor suites, and it was Rimsky-Korsakov that did finish the work. So I was right about that. I thought it might be Tchaikovsky, but it's Rimsky-Korsakov, and that friendship is what sealed his fame, and that's a beautiful gift from a friend and a fan.
There you go. Let's see. He also says Readout loves trains. We're talking about trains back then. He does. That's what I was thinking about. And adapting another narrative voice is something I would think very difficult. Especially in the ending phase, you need to polish the work without wording things the way every instinct is. It's about adopting them words. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree with that part. And you're talking about Readout. I crashed one of his streams one time because he was working on trains, and I was so excited that I jumped in the stream on him. I need to do that again. I was like, it is part of this whole thing about being an author or being somebody is that we do actually have only a limited time. And it's like, how do I find all my friends? How do I find all my people? And how do I get from place to place? Like I used to be able to do Mondays. I used to be able to do Wrangler's show. And I would go up every Monday, and I was like, I need to do it again. But right now I've got a church on Monday nights, and my husband has to go up every time. So he's just his schedule changed. And I'm like, so do I ditch him or Wrangler? And I'm like, I'm going to ditch my husband. I'm going to go to Wrangler's show next time. I'm just going to tell him that. I'm just be like, I'm sorry, I'm leaving you for Wrangler because you can handle church. When he goes off and I have to let him, because he handles church for me. But I'm to have dinner for him or something. Well, it's right at the time Wrangler's coming on, and I'm like, I can't get it all done. And so I'm going to leave my husband for you, Wrangler. I'm going to come over to your show next week or something. We're just going to show up and just going to tell you that my husband is not as important to me as no. Don't say that. Don't say that. Somebody will hear it. They'll be like, she was trash talking to you. But yeah, it's so hard because that life starts to interfere, and it's like there are so many fantastic authors. And I don't know if y'all do this, but I have this thing called guilt. Like if I mention one of my friends, like I'll be like, oh my gosh, I forgot so-and-so. And I'll go back and I'll try to add everybody in because I love so many people. And I'm like, I want to make sure everybody gets a cookie and whatever. And I feel like I'm teaching school again. And I want to share everybody. And it's like, it's really hard because I feel guilty if I don't include all of my friends. And I'm like, how do I do all of it? How do I get all of it done? And it's really, it'll start to run you over because it's not just the books, it's the people, these wonderful people that you want to love and to give support to and to be there. And you got $5 in the bank and you're like, I really want to do your Kickstarter, but I got $5. So you give that $1, like he says, I want to support this thing. And you say, here's $1. And if they see like, what, who just gave $1? It was me, But that's how we do it. It's like, and so with that author community, because we're constantly interacting, I found that most of our author friends on this group, especially, are so freaking supportive. Otter is one of those people. Frederick is one of those people. They're literally, they will support you over. Just if you say, can you please be here for me on this thing? They'll be there. Dude, Wrangler shows up for everything. Is he still out there? Wrangler, I love you. Every time I turn around, Wrangler is there. Wrangler is right there. And Grand's usually here. I'm more kind of worried about her. I'm going to have to touch base with her, make sure she's okay. Because because I'll go up on Substack to do that because I want to make sure she's all right. But we have usually Wrangler and Lily and all the rest. Well, those people, they're actually the ones that help support us more because they focus on one or two of us. They bring us that love. They bring us the shows that we have, and they come in. Those are our regulars. And the truth is, we forget that regulars, those people that aren't just in the community and just trying to get everybody like me all the time, trying to go from flower to flower like a bumblebee, they actually are the ones that sustain because they pick one or two shows they'd see, one or two shows that they will do, and they are very devoted to those one or two things. When somebody like Lily or Wrangler or Morale Officer Grand comes in, they're devoted to that. They're giving us a chunk of their time that they're actually dedicated to us. And it's incredibly important. It's like that gift is so huge. You can't even describe it. And so that's the people we're trying to say, we're here, we'd love to establish that relationship. And then the one thing I really want to compliment you on this, we've done 100 shows. That gift of being able to offer that to somebody, say, hey, I'm going to be here every week. If you want to come in, come in. Establishing those relationships, what people have started to take for granted, they don't realize this is actually a relatively new thing of the podcaster or the speaker or speakers being able to interact in a chat with an audience of a group of people where they become like family, where they know each other's stories and they know what's going on. And we've seen this over and over again. I've seen this in Dungeon Delvers chat. I've seen in Sir Gargoyle's chat, several chats that I've been in where there is such a camaraderie in it. And Wrangler actually has the same thing going on. His Monday podcast where it's just the open air stuff. We also have those chatters that are in there. They just hop the streams and they come in. This format is so critically important right now because that is community for a lot of people. It is it started in COVID where everybody was shut off from each other. Now we have these little communities, but consistency is that key. And so then once again, we're saying, okay, consistency. Then as an author, how do you work that in? If you're saying, okay, I want a podcast, I want to show up and that's a commitment to be able to say, I want to be here. I want to see my people. That's my folks. And then we commit ourselves and we give ourselves over to it. And it becomes so incredibly important, not just to us as authors, but to the people we're talking to, because we want to know that we're important. They want to know that too. They want to know that, the lights come up and James Esparza is there. Hey, he's on tonight. And of course, we've had a couple of weeks off, but you have been very faithful in coming through and setting up these podcasts and making this show happen. And I just want to give you all the love for that because you created this baby, and it is now, 100 podcasts in.
Yeah, probably over that, to be honest.
Yeah, to be honest, it is. I don't know if we put the big 100 on there yet, but
stuck with 99 for now.
Were we 99? Yeah, so we're stuck at 99 until Black Knight comes back because we want to make sure that he's here when we do it. But yeah, that's a huge thing, and that is a commitment of love and respect. Whether it's kind of like a ministry. We have a very tiny church. We have a little old, white building. It's actually the church that's in the story of Watcher of the Damned. It's the same church. If you read the story, you'd actually could find it. There's actually a hints on how you would find it in the real world, and it looks exactly like that.
That's cool.
Small church with about 10 people usually regularly coming, but then we have a whole different group. Like tonight's going to be our ham radio club, and we have a whole different group come in, and then we have art classes on Monday, and it's a whole different group then. But it's still a small church. If I said, you know what, that's a small church, it really doesn't need it. And that happens to small churches too, where, there's not enough people coming. We need, 100 people to make this work, and we're just not going to be here anymore. Those 10 people know that we love them more than anything in the world. We're willing to do whatever it takes and crawl through book and glass to be there. That we will be there every Sunday, come rain, come shine. We're going to be open. We did it in COVID too. We actually almost got in trouble with the world because we opened up those doors and said, we're going to be here regardless. And when you commit yourself to somebody, that relationship is just as important as 100 people in a podcast or 1,000 people in the audience. It's just as important as 1 million. the person that's sitting in front of you, Wrangler or Grant or Lily or Raven or any of those other people, they are just as important as anyone else out there. And when you give that love to them, they're going to come back. And I love the fact that you have kept this going, that you have been faithful in this. And the love we've gotten back has just been amazing. I love the people in our chat. And every week I look forward to this. It's like the one time I actually get to sort of everything else that I do, I have to be mom. I have to be Mimi. I have to be the wife, the preacher's wife or somebody else. I get to be me when I'm here with you. And that's not you, James. It's you, the audience, the chat. I know whoever's listening to this later, even if they're not here right now, and part because we were gone a couple of weeks, and I know they weren't sure if we're coming in this week, but we'll be putting out the announcement, the next time, hey, it's 100, they're going to see it and they'll come in. But that's why I'm here, because this is a family. And whether it's authors helping each other to try to finish your work, or an audience that comes in and says, hey, I read something you wrote, and you're like, oh my gosh, I love you so much. And Wrangler knows what that feels like too. I know he does, where somebody says, hey, I was reading, Haley Bad Kitty, and it's the best Bad Kitty story I've ever read. And people just get all, there's no feeling like it. This is the community. And I know we look for those big numbers. Not because we're wanting fame or fortune, but because it means that we know somebody loves us. And it's part of that ambition, should be part of it. But to know that the people who are there actually care about us is overwhelming. It's amazing. And you made that happen, James. You made that happen with the show.
Well, it was your guys' idea. That's for sure. I know you guys little backstage talk there. When you guys started this, you were just looking for somebody to help with all the technical aspects. And that's pretty much what I just see myself doing, is helping out with the technical aspects for you guys. This is more so your guys' show.
No, it is not, because you're the one that actually runs it. You have a sandwich, dude.
Yeah, but still, it was your guys' idea. And you guys were going to do it either or, and I wasn't going to do it unless, until you guys said so. So, you guys sort of brought it together in your own way. But that's how it happens. That's one thing that a lot of people also kind of don't understand about communities. There's often a lot of individuals out there who are more than willing to help or step up or do one thing or another. But a lot of the time, people don't they lack that ambition. Like you said, they lack that ambition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I've been learning that over time, over the last 8 months, trying to make a radio drama that's finally coming together. And hopefully will be done in the next 60 days. That's what I'm aiming.
Oh, really?
For.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I would love to be in on it if you'll have me. I'm trying to actually. So I'm supposed to be getting this sort of studio thing done, I hope, in the next 30 is what it's going to take. So if I get that done, then that means I'm actually going to be able to block out some of that noise that's behind me. I do also have another alternative that's pretty close by, and we've now got it set up where I can actually go over there and I can do that. So I'm all excited for it. And in fact, this is going to be this is the tutorial part for me, because it's you doing this work that actually makes all the difference for me, because I don't know what I'm doing with this kind of stuff. I have no clue. I'm not that person as far as audio work. And so I'm like, I've done audio work before, and I had a great guy that was doing it for me, but I'm now I don't know where that went. All of a sudden the whole thing disappeared because it was under somebody else's endeavor. And then their page disappeared, and I'm like, oh, it's gone. I think I've got them saved on a directory somewhere, and I'm gonna have to put them back on my page. But I've got to redo all of that stuff, and I'm like, dude, how am I gonna do this? And so when you have this thing that we're doing with the audio, so much of it is about making a good, audio take, and how do we want to format it and everything like that. And you have some cool ideas, because you're making this actually like a radio play. We're basically doing a radio play. Is that right?
Yes, very much so.
And it's got like a script and everything, but the audio is kind of the same thing. The difference is with the books, and this is what I want to get some advice on this. So I've been struggling with the whole thing about the audiobooks. People have asked me, are you going to have an audiobook? I keep saying, yes, I'm trying to get there,
Uh-huh.
it's hard to get there, of course. And part of it is that you have to have a studio. In my case, I have to have a studio that's accessible to me because I'm dealing with some other issues in my life and I have to be able to get in,
Partially.
make it cool, or, things like that, have that running. And so I keep on hearing from other writers, though, that you don't ever break even with an audiobook, that you or that you might. Herman Hunter, famously, he's the one that actually his audiobook is so fantastic that people are just like, this is the best audiobook ever. I'm never going to beat that. And he's had great sales with audiobooks. But for a
Mhm.
lot of authors, even though they may have a lot of units go out, they don't make very much off of it because of the way Amazon's set up.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so this would be a labor of love if I did it. But then other people are like, well, just put it on, YouTube, put the camera on and just read. I'm like, which way shall I go? I mean, I'd like your thoughts on this because there are other options besides just Audible. Audible is awesome because it counts as a book. People see it and they go, oh, they've had this many sales or they've had this many books go out.
Uh-huh.
But then there's a part where you're just like, hey, I'm just going to read for my audience and, we're going to put this on there and do it and see what
Yeah.
happens. What do you think about this? What's the difference like in the formatting and
So
stuff?
there's this website called rss.com, which essentially allows you to make your own audio podcast, and it gets a lot of the sort of metadata stuff dealt with you. But what it also does is it allows you to distribute your audio podcast, which a audiobook could kind of fall into a podcast. You break it up into episodes or chapters, and it'll allow you to distribute it on popular platforms like maybe not Audible because that's Amazon, but you could get on what's that other one? Starts with the T. You can get on basically most audio-based platforms. You can get on Apple Music. You can get on Spotify. That's what I was thinking. You can get on Spotify. And then because you'll essentially be the one hosting it, or they'll host it for you, but you'll have all the licenses. They'll have zero licensure whatsoever over the product. You could essentially just post it wherever you want after that as well. So that's a route I'm personally going to take when distributing this this audio drama, because it is a fan-made audio drama, 100%. And I asked permission beforehand from the company, which is Funcom. It is based off an existing property, which is the Secret World. It's a now defunct yet a very interesting and unique setting. It's a old school video game now. I guess it would fall underneath old school, but me and a bunch of the fans are going to make an unofficial Secret World project where we're releasing a audio drama as well as a bunch of audio logs set in the universe as such. And I'm going to use that methodology for distribution personally. And it has all the tools necessary. Like it'll ask for artwork to be uploaded and things like this. And then once you start sort of distributing it to all the different websites, you can, it does all the information you give it. It automatically fills it out for you on all those websites. You don't have to do it yourself. It'll upload your artwork directly to all these websites and stuff for audio. So that's the route I'm taking personally. But like I said, it depends. It depends how good of audio you want. I actually have an audio piece I'd like to play, because you're talking about a studio. I'm not actually in the studio right now.
This sounds good.
Exactly. There's this new technology. I'm actually in a room that would be considered the worst for recording, but there's a few things people don't know about audio in particular. One of which is that to really get the most out of audio, you have to have usually a very expensive pair of headphones. And you can't pick up a lot of these small discrepancies that the professionals know how to hide in audio with your average headphone that most people be wearing, which is
Yeah.
usually these days like the earbuds, you know,
Yeah.
and so there's a lot of technology you can use to help mask your voice. I have the worst, and I mean the worst, setting for audio right now. Like my my desk is right up against a gigantic window, one of those like room-sized windows, takes
Oh,
up half the wall. My floor is hollow.
really? Dude.
My microphone is just sitting on my stand, and there's this like big sort of cavernous indenture behind it that my desk is supposed to, you're supposed to slide stuff behind there. Um, so there's a lot of reverb as well.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, but I sound okay. I sound
Yeah.
okay. I don't sound 100% professional. If you get put on a big, fat, expensive pair of headphones, which less than 10% of the community actually owns, it's not going to sound that good. On the screen right now, I brought up an audio plate I'm currently working
Oh,
on, and I'm going to play it for you as an
sweet.
example. And I recorded this. You're going to hear my voice in the segment up ahead. I recorded this in the room I am in now. And I also should mention, because I'm talking about headphones, expensive headphones,
Oh yeah.
for me to actually hear everything and like all the minute sort of details, I have to crank up my headphones like really loud as well. I got to crank it up.
Yeah.
So when approaching sound, keep in mind, most people aren't going to be playing it all the way cranked up. So they're not going to pick up every single little minute detail. And most of them aren't going to have the actual audio equipment to do it anyways. So there's that to take in. But if you're going to want to release it on a professional platform, then you might want to pay somebody, because that's what they're going to expect. But let me play this. It was recorded in this nightmare room I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit too far. Start from here.
Cool. Wait, I can't hear it yet.
You can't hear it? Is the audio coming through?
No, it's not yet.
It's not. So you're not getting any audio through.
But it may not be on my end. It might be coming in on the other one. Maybe I need to hear it. Let's see. I'm trying to, because I might have it off where it's not showing up on mine.
Okay, no, it should be playing. Wrangler's in the chat, I think. Wrangler, have you heard it? No audio. Strange, because usually just sharing my screen will get the audio through, which is usually what we do. You know what it probably is?
What?
It might just be what's it called? Freaking StreamYards, because it sort of nullifies the audio on StreamYards a lot.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
That is a thing there. And I wanted to share that clip with you because you could actually hear the difference there. But I guess StreamYards is just being difficult there. And what's difficult about StreamYards too is it doesn't actually allow you to share audio files. Like you can't just bring up an audio file and share it. It has to be a video file or an image file, which that's another issue. Yeah. So there's a lot of issues with that. So unfortunately, I won't be able to share that. It's strange because I've done that before and shared audio and it seemed to work regularly. So I don't know what the big thing is there for StreamYards, but that's another issue. Another reason, frankly, I don't pay for the StreamYards subscription, and we got a little StreamYards duck in the corner because it's pricey and it's got so much issues that you just can't really work around.
Dude, well, that's the thing. There's every different platform. This is the other thing that really plagues
Mm-hmm.
any of us as creators, whether it's authors, musicians, others, is that not only do the pricing changes. First, you find something wonderful. It looks like you can afford it. It's great. They go up on the price. They change the platform, or they
They
change
do.
the software where it's no longer compatible with the hardware you've got, or something else. Now you're out again, and it's a constant rolling. Usually, every year, at least once a year, there's something that changes with what I'm using and how I have to use it. And that means that you can't ever get comfortable with just saying, "Hey, I've got this piece of equipment. I
Mm-hmm.
know it's going to work." It now works only if you pay the subscription thing, and you've got to get the update. But when you put in the update, example of this is my printer, HP, which I'd always gotten HP printers. Don't know why. Don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Until I found out later that you have to subscribe now, or the printer it's subscribed to the ink, or even though I own the printer, it just stops working. And I'm like, oh, really? So this is a surprise. You don't know it won't work until later. So we have a tendency to get gun shy where you're talking about, yeah, I could go and, buy more, get upgraded for a street. And that's really hard because when you're a small business or a small creator
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to find platforms that work and things that work for more than 6 months to a year, it starts to get really dicey. And the same thing happens with our platforms. We're on Substack, X, others. You go on X and set up and everything's looking really great. Suddenly the algorithm changes and nobody can see you. And so with Substack changing its format, so that way it's not really about authors or readers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's about social interaction. Or you go to plus something like YouTube where you thought everything was okay, and then you find out that you've lost your platform entirely because they thought that you had AI on something and there's not a human to talk to because they're using AI to say that you're using AI. So it's so fraught with danger. It's one of the reasons I haven't put that much out on my YouTube this last couple of years or the last year and a half, really, because first of all, I was using it mainly for my illustrations and to put updates on it, but it stopped reaching people completely. It just
Yeah,
stopped going out.
it is one of
I
the
would put
issues.
out something and it wouldn't go. It was like three views, 4 views where I had been getting.
You're breaking up there a bit, Snow. I'm sorry. I can't really hear
Yes,
you.
and so you get discouraged and you go, well, I'm putting so much time into this, and so the platform that works for me best right now actually is X because
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit there, Snow. I can't really hear you. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Can folks in the chat hear okay?
it's a good fit right now. Right now, it's a good fit, even though I don't get much visibility on my oh, sorry. No, sorry. Can you hear me?
Ah, we lost Snow. She'll join us right now. She probably has some light connectivity issues. You were mentioning Wrangler. Do you have a music option? You asked that. You can only upload like short files, audio files. I believe it's like 30 megabytes. Well, I guess that's not too short for a song. 30 megabytes for an audio play. It's pretty long, so I can't upload that. Yeah. Snow was glitching out there for a bit, but she made some good points. One of which is like the ever changing platforms for anybody in any profession. You're dealing with the different platforms because you know, sticking with the indie author stuff, you're your own manager. One of the ways to grow is to essentially grow on a platform and build up sort of like a persona or an audience through X. She mentioned she was getting some pretty good. Pretty good. She was getting picked up by the X algorithm. Yeah, there we go. That's what I was trying to say. Pretty good. But all these different sort of platforms change over time. Like Substack changed over time to be less about the writer and more communal with their notes. All right, Snow's back. There you are, Snow.
Dude, I said that about like all the platforms, and suddenly my signal completely disappeared. They're on to me. Oh no.
There they are. They heard it. They found you. They're everywhere. Yeah, but you're right. Like that's another thing that a lot of indies got to navigate is the changing of the platforms. It could be overnight. And then changing of the algorithms. One thing we heard you say was about X, how you were finding some you were doing all right on X. Is that what you're saying?
Right now, yes, and it's not about me. I'm not monetized at all. So that's the first thing. I don't get that part of it where I have a viral, post or anything like that. Literally, mine is all about having a just having people respond to me one-on-one usually, which is extraordinary. And instead I find readers that way, but it's strictly through non-viral posts, non-viral means. Anything that I've done has been the success I've had has been by just paying attention to people that are saying certain things, and I say, wait, that looks like that would fit in with what I'm doing. I don't have to say it that way. Most of my interactions are actually based on that just somebody's lonely and it's the middle of the night and they're having a tough time. But because of that, we've made some great, friendships. And then they find out I'm a writer and they just half looking at it to see if they really want to be involved or not. And then they find out, which is amazing. And so I found that that's actually been a winning strategy for me since I'm still previous to doing any kind of real marketing because I don't have the series finished yet. And so that's where it's worked out for me. But it also goes against the prevailing wisdom, which is you don't say anything that might make somebody think something about you. A lot of authors really struggle with this, where you have to say only things that are about your book or that won't offend anyone. But it also means that no matter what you say, you're going to probably offend someone somewhere. In the environment that we're in right now, we're very much in a place where people are being called out to demanding that you say something one way or the other about any given outrage of the moment. And I found this more from certain groups than others, where they'll corner you on it. Well, what do you think about this? You have to tell me, who did you vote for? You have to tell me, what do you think? And you're required. And if you say the wrong thing, then they say, well, you have to unfollow these people. You have to not follow these ones. I've had that happen just this last week. And I was like, I follow people who think differently than me for a reason. I don't do things just because somebody thinks like me. I'm looking for friends, not mirrors. If I wanted to have a mirror, I'd go buy one. And so that makes it really hard because there's a certain portion of the population now that demands that you only think like they do and that you only say what they say. Well, fortunately, my book, because I'm blessed that way, my book's very much about freedom and going up against tyranny and has the word revolution in it, which actually puts me on a short list of words that are not supposed to be shared worldwide. So that makes it a little hard. So I was already that person to begin with. I wasn't losing anything. Now, if I was looking to have a book that's going to appeal to a wide range of people on the left and the right, and it's, a romantasy or something like that, it would be very smart to not share that stuff. For me to not, because I wouldn't want to upset people on either side. But because my book is inherently political in that sense, that it's about fighting against, tyranny to go be free and to own guns and shoot stuff, it's kind of got an audience. So I can say certain things about, gun rights and things like that. And it makes sense. So having found out how I can do it and what way is the best way to do it, I'm able to break free of some of the fears that I have. I already know I'm going to upset some people, and that's okay. I can do that. And they wouldn't have loved me anyway. They weren't going to. But that's one of the harder things to do now as an author, is to say, well, how do you reveal yourself in such a politically charged environment? How do you reveal yourself to your audience without them being upset, without upsetting the wrong people. And if you don't reveal yourself, then people say, oh, well, all you do is try to sell your book. You never talk about anything interesting. And it's a
Hmm.
very hard road to walk. And only the author or the creator themselves knows how much to reveal is too much.
Yeah. Yeah, very much is. You gotta like treat yourself as like your own little cult of personality there. Which it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to ask because authors aren't always the most social type. They're not always the
Really?
most outgoing type in that area. But it's part of the indie author challenge. People want to know the authors these days. They
Hmm.
fall in love with works, but they also fall in love with authors just as much. So it is very much a good tactic to go down that route and create some kind of persona. And in that, there's a lot you can sort of approach, or I should say, there's a lot of avenues towards approaching that. I'm sure if I tried to sell this sandwich, I probably could sell a
You
few
could. You
books.
could sell that sandwich
The
right now.
the sandwich that sells books, the book sandwich, right?
Oh my gosh, that actually sounds kind of cool. Book
The book
sandwich.
sandwich, right? We'll put one on top and on bottom. I'll be in the middle. Zing.
That's right.
There we go. The book sandwich. So but that's not really my approach. I probably should, James the sandwich. But it's just one of the avenues out there for an author and for a lot of people, because a lot of people these days do back individuals more than their books. But with that, you got the challenge of individuals backing you for you and less so for your literature, which, it can be a little deflating.
Well, it is hard because you
Yeah.
have to say not everybody is a personality, but we need to stop saying to ourselves, "Oh, I'm not interesting. I'm not fun to look at." One of the most important things you can learn to do is you all your life you pretended to be Batman, or you pretended to be Little Red Riding Hood, or you pretended to be something else. We put an elf, a fairy,
Yeah.
anything. We put on our costumes and we play like we're somebody else. It is a right and good thing to cosplay yourself, to go ahead and say, I am this person that I want to be. How would I dress? How is this person personified in me? When you have that capability to be yourself fully, to express that in such a way, and to be your authentic self without having to bend over backwards and pretend, but you can be that person. Never feel like you have to dress only a certain way or do only a certain thing. You're an author.
Yeah.
You can put on that special hat or that special little thing. You don't want to have an affectation, but it's something you should love. That's who you are. If you are a shy person who doesn't really like to talk, get on that camera and talk about that. Talk about how hard it is. People love to see somebody else that wants to be different, or is trying, but they're really finding themselves in that author when they go, oh yeah, I have a tough time too. I don't really want to get in front of people. You're doing great. They will say that to you. They actually will come out and support you. And yes, there will be people that are terrible about it, people that say terrible things. And X is one of the hardest places to be, because there are people that genuinely love and support other people and will be there for you and say wonderful things to lift you up. And then there are others who literally will come after you for saying something like, happy birthday, baby. And they will literally tear you apart for that. Or, I'm praying for you now. Oh, why are you praying? Where is your God? Spaghetti monster thing. Those things happen. People attack for no reason. And so we get to where we're afraid to say anything. We're afraid to reveal ourselves. It's the same way as it is in real life. You can only find the person who loves you when you're willing to show you to someone else. You are also going to find the person who does not love you when you show yourself. When you put yourself out there, you are going to know who are the people who are never meant for you. And that's one of the hardest lessons to learn. But you've also taken that person off of the page. I know now that probably people who objectively love the Communist Manifesto are not going to be probably fans of Watcher of the Damned. If they are truly fellow travelers who have nothing of interest except, what Lenin wrote, they are probably not going to like my story. And I have seen that in real life as well. I don't have to guess. but on the other hand, I found so many other people who did like it, who I would never have been known to me, who are actually in all spectrums of the political genre, because I was willing to show myself, not just my political beliefs and not just the part of me that writes, but the other things that have affected my life, the struggles with uh, uh, a rare condition that I've been born with, or the fact that I live out in the country and that I have cattle and horses and donkeys. The little things about my life that other people saw, that they said, "Oh, that's the
Yes.
person who I share something this with," and they start a conversation, and that's my audience. Those people said, "Wait, I like what she's doing there. That means maybe I'll like what she wrote about. Maybe I'll like it. Maybe I won't. But at least it's something, and I know this person." And the other thing is that I always try to respond to somebody, even if it's terrible. I try to respond, and I try not to cry about it, but I try to say, "Yeah, it's
Hmm.
okay. You're you, and I don't believe the same way as you do, but that's cool. You're still you." It's really hard to get to that place, but we have to be able to share ourselves as creators in order for us to find the people who are going to love us. It's not just the work that we do. They
Hmm.
do say that you can't sell just the story, you have to sell the author as well. It's not as big a deal in the indie space, and I will say this honestly, in the indie space, people are just looking at your story and going, "Hey, that looks great." Big five publishers, you're going to have to be the personality. You're going to have to be the person they're looking for. They don't even care sometimes about your story. They just care about who you are. Well, in this case, the indie sphere does offer that grace of, I have a story I wrote, or I had a song I wrote, or I am an artist. Would you like to see my work? It does go hand in hand. There has to be that talent there, but people are really
Yeah.
looking to see, do they know you? What do they learn about James? And when you put on the things about your audio work or your pug, I love the story about your little babies and your sandwich, and those things, that's what makes it so unique. That's what makes it so amazing to look at. I know exactly, it's not just me talking about uh, James Esparza, who has a podcast. It's James Esparza that lives, in California, and who has this really cool background. And he has all these interesting things about the desert and the culture that was there and the worlds that he's building. And when you share these little things about you, it's no longer just about, am I looking for a story to read? It's that, once again, the relationship between the creator and the receiver, and in this case, the author and the reader, and finding those platforms that allow us to do that, to allow us to share ourselves without being censored or put aside or buried under an
Hmm.
algorithm, is a huge challenge, but it's also part of the journey. And it's how we found each other in this world where we're living now, on this show,
Yeah.
to be able to know each other. It was through that transformation of discovering ourselves while we discovered each other.
Yeah. You never know where the next interesting relationship is going to come from, or what
Mm-hmm.
you might be able to build with others along the way. That's for sure. But these being sort of in betweener episodes, we're keeping them slightly shorter than usual. We're a tad bit over the hour mark, but we're gonna go ahead and start closing it off here. Snow, where can people find you, and if there's any last things you wanted to share?
I just wanted to share, first of all, how thrilled I am that Wrangler, that you came out today to listen to us. Thank you so much. I love you. You really do. You mean the world to me. And everybody that's going to be out there in chat, that they'll show up.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, we love you guys so much. It means everything. This is a family, and I wanted to be here. Anybody that's coming up after me, I came here looking for you guys, and I wanted to see you today. And I'm thrilled when you show up. That's amazing to me. And
Hmm.
you can find me at watchwiththedam.com, where I have my books. And I also have my links to my X page and to my YouTube, which I will start activating again. I am coming back to Substack. Part of my journey has been coming back from the stroke, was actually to get my
Hmm.
typing up to a point where it wasn't as much of a struggle. I have been working on my next story, but I was like, wow, I'm having a hard time with the formatting of my essays. So I finally have gotten to that
Yeah.
place where I'm able to work around it thanks to a keyboard that I bought. And so I will be back on Substack, and I'll be ending my sort of hiatus there and getting back on there with my, essays and things, because I love you guys. And wherever you're finding me, whether it's Substack or X or YouTube, you are fantastic people, and I love you. And I just wanted to
Nice.
say that from the bottom of my heart.
Excellent. One last comment from the chat here from Wrangler. When
Wrangler.
people talk about James Bond, they don't talk about Ian Fleming. But
That's true.
when folks talk about Harry Potter, they talk about J.K. Rowling.
That's right.
I want to be like Ian Fleming.
I know it is. Well, I will say this much. That comment, that's the difference between this age and the last age.
Yeah.
Ian Fleming actually was known because he had worked, Ian Fleming, I believe with Spycraft. He was, well aware of it and had new people in that industry. And being a published author in and of itself gave that cachet of persona that we don't get as indies. So it's really hard. They have the glossy headshots and everything in the author's bio, and it meant so much more then. And now we're this sort of spectator culture, and as a result, the celebrity culture that goes with it. And so it's kind of like it's really blown up in the last 20 years to where the author now becomes the, in quotes, personality as well, which makes it really hard.
Very much so, right? You just want to write a book and get it out there, but you got to get yourself out there too.
But yes, Wrangler, you are the Ian Fleming of Bad Kitties.
There you go. The Ian Fleming of Bad Kitties, everyone. But with that, thank you for joining us for another magnificent episode of Terran Tuesday. But we're going to go ahead, respect your time, and head on out of here.